Oh yeah. It's Saturday. Saturday's the day that the day is. Today is the day called Today, Saturday. Today's the day called Saturday. It's a day called Saturday. Why is this thing drooping? Stop drooping, bro. I got droop. I got droop in my troop. Don't eat my soup. I need my leftovers for lunch, troop. You're in the group. Take a dookie. Go poopy. I got droop in my troop, and you're gonna eat my soup because you're in the group. You're in the loop with the group because you're eating my soup. I don't like my troops to have droops. Hey. Well. Let's see if I can get an image to appear on my screen. Focus. Whew, man. I used the power of will to make it focus. I got lights in my spot. Lights are kind of good, aren't they? Ooh, warm. Sorry about the here. If I align the glasses just right, the lights will be like, look at that, laser vision. Anyway, wow, that is the content that we have been missing on the YT. I don't know why these are new spectacles. So maybe the fact that my spectacles are so new is where you can almost read the comments in the reflection of the glasses. Okay, so I'm still clicking things here. Look at that. Autofocus turned off. Anyway, yeah, so how do you do, guys? Well, I tell you what, and Guyettes, all you folks out there in Runehammer land, greetings, everyone. My name is Hanker Infernal, Ingrid Bernal here. Your old buddy, reappearing on YouTube after 17 years living under a rock in northern England. I live in a moss home with elven folk, and yeah, so I can't. The mic sounds warbly, you know. I think by the time you start, I don't know what warbly means. By the time you start one of these stinking things, you can't change the microphone. Okay, the first thing I was going to talk about is like having to destroy my whole setup here. You know, it's crazy. And, you know, I want to send a quick props out before we talk about anything of substance to people doing like YouTube video making podcast things. All right. These people are crazy because the amount of setup that it takes, I can't get past laser eyes, the amount of setup that it takes. And, frankly, it's like almost like wrecking my whole normal daily setup to get some decent, like to get my mic and my this thing, whatever this thing's doing. This is just making my life really here. I'm twisting it. Ooh, look, now there's a creepy like eclipse ring. I'm just gonna leave it be. You guys aren't used to seeing me like this. Anyway. It's crazy the amount of effort that people put into this stuff. You have like dedicated space. Look at the background here. This is just my work office. This is just where I work. And like, I don't know if everybody knows this, but I've had some really large commission projects recently, a ton of commission work. And so I'm always here at the drawing desk or like working with heaps of miniatures or making sure we get shipments and all this kind of different fun stuff. And making videos and podcasts is absolutely the opposite of that. So there's the minute that I tried to like get the thing out, like a bunch of cords, you know how they're like slipper, they're like snake off the side of your desk, like a ton of all the cords now are down in some black pit over here. I don't even know what those cords are. This light thing is crazy that's back here. This whole area of the desk is now wrecked. It's hilarious. Low effort YouTube content. Not sure that I'm the biggest fan of the term low effort, but hey, I'm here. It's a matter of setting priorities. So of course, some props out to my man, Shady Mother, my boy down in the Southwest. He kind of hit me up and was just like, bro, man, you got to get back out there, bro. What's up? Let me see if I can get a little more. Again, clicking things, touching them, brightening them, darkening them, maybe a little bit of both. Anyway, so here I am, still existing. I'm still alive. Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I know it's Saturday morning. Back in the day, we used to hang out on Saturday morning all the time. I would do my cartoon stream where I would draw cartoons and everything. Now, I don't know why, but since that time, like OBS and some other stuff I would use to do drawing lessons online got like mega frame rate horrible. Even just YouTube itself. Like right now, I feel like the frame rate never fully recovered. I don't know if it's just me, but I would love to get into some of that stuff again. I'm going to try to make a slot for doing this on the more regular, which probably be a weekday afternoon is when I could probably fit it in. Kind of just do the week or so, like kind of catching up with Runehammer. I don't think I need to make big theses and get all crazy with it. I don't know if I want to be known for low effort YouTube necessarily, but I think there's plenty to talk about, and I don't want my loyal shield wall to think that there's nothing to talk about. Also, I know that I've been outspoken here on YouTube saying like, well, in recent years, I've found that actually YouTube is kind of spinning me out a little bit. Like the vibe isn't where I'm at, and I'm kind of backing away from it from a little bit. And I realized that maybe that's a separate issue from continuing to have my own voice out there in the transmittosphere. The fact that I'm just not using YouTube as much because I'm not like relating to it doesn't mean that I just should just bow off of it and disappear. So try to kind of continue to basically just remind everyone of my thing. I don't even know what it is. And, I rise and fall like any other normal human being. I'm not just sort of like a brand or a company or something. And every week, here's this there's another product to get and all this kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, sometimes it feels like frustrating. Like am I getting anywhere with all this stuff? And then other times I'm like super proud. Like we have a shop here. And I do film like the kind of the back room of it. It's like, I don't know how many of you have worked restaurant jobs, but those are my people, by the way. If you're out there, those are tough jobs. But there's always like this wretched break room where you eat your lunch or whatever. So we're in the back office of the shop. So I'm not going to go film out in the cool part because we have people in today, especially Saturday is a really big day for us. Saturday afternoon is probably our most popular Octagon day. So that's kind of why you come back here in the room with all the boxes and with all the printers and I got myself a new microwave up in there so I can have some hot lunch, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, the realness is here, and I'd like to try to get back into some of these habits. So with that introduction, let me catch you up. Let me catch you up on what is up. First, let's do the kind of crazy part, and then we'll get into the more fun stuff like I got to tell you about my groups, like I always do. As many of you know, Crown and Skull Volume 2 came out just about 2 months ago or so, and it's doing great. Thank you, everybody, for grabbing a copy. I hope you're getting your mind a little bit expandicated, dreaming about games that can involve the dragons in the North Holds. Volume 2 is really my answer to the role-playing world for how dragons never seem to be clearly defined in how you actually go get them in your campaign. We often drool over dragon stat blocks, like in the new D&D Monster Manual. The dragon stat blocks are much improved. They're really cool, and you can kind of get a little dreamy-eyed about doing 527 damage. But it doesn't necessarily answer this bigger question about exactly what's the chain of events that gets me into this dragon confrontation. And that's usually just left to the GM, right? Which is totally cool. But Crown Volume 2 dives deep into it. And I don't know about y'all, but every single time that my players have brought down a dragon or even injured it, they want to harvest the dragon in some way. They want to harvest the blood, the body parts, whatever. So that's also included in Crown and Skull 2, how to make gear out of dragon body parts, what kind of stuff can be harvested from dragon body parts. As a lifetime video game player, we all know that like getting material drops sort of from enemies is like a big part of the fun. And so all that's kind of included. So yeah, that's part 1. Hey, wait, I have an idea. No, it's not going to matter. Okay. So Crown and Skull Volume 2, I hope you're all enjoying it. But at the same time, you know, like the effort and the expense, frankly, to put out these Crown and Skull, these leather-bound books that are like made in large quantities and shipped all over the world and all this kind of stuff without using any crowdfunding at all, even though it makes me proud because I'm kind of standing my ground as someone who doesn't really like the psychological loop that crowdfunding creates. I'm amazed that I've been able to get this far, but sometimes seeing the viral kind of chain reacting effect that can occur because of crowdfunding kind of gets me down a little bit, to be completely honest. It kind of feels like, man, I'm such an idiot. You know, like I don't go to a ton of conventions. I don't use Kickstarter or BackerKit or anything. I don't do some of these key steps that are making my colleagues and my peers kind of catapult beyond me in so-called success. And you just get like, you know, like it can be frustrating. So I just want everybody to know that that's like a thing. It isn't just, I'm maybe somewhat unique or novel in that I really do believe in the sort of the behind the scenes aspect is the aspect. It really, I guess it sort of is the process, is the behind the scenes part. The part that's in front of the scenes, so to speak, is the tiniest portion. And honestly, like a lot of time spent in the creative industry, like I did, you really learn that. The amount of people and goodness and fun and even interestingness that goes on to create a product. And then the company kind of just shows that little veneer at the end and kind of springs it on the customer. I think doing that for years really showed me that the process part that's sort of behind the scenes, so to speak, is really to me like the guts of what's going on. It's the stuff. The product is actually the smallest aspect. Obviously a critical aspect of any industrial effort. So anyways, I just want to say that like, this isn't easy sometimes, you know, and I know that my standards or my preferences or whatever, they kind of, yeah, they do occasionally like work against me. I can't deny it. I just can't deny it. I'm not necessarily cut of this like industrial ambition cloth where I'm really like, you know, suited to this kind of astronomical kind of endeavor. So anyways, we're still doing great. The shop is doing amazingly well. Crown and Skull is trucking right along. So everything about Runehammer is still doing really awesome. And I'm really grateful for that, especially for my patrons. I know that like this past year, especially working on getting this shop open, I haven't been nearly as present for the DIY community as I was, you know, say a year and a half ago. And now that things are feeling pretty stable here and our community has really accepted us and they're showing up to play whatever, all the crazy stuff they play, be it Trench Crusade, Warhammer, a lot of D&D, Magic on Friday nights, whatever. They've embraced us. We are their game shop. And like, man, I'm really grateful for that. But I can never forget my patrons who really got me everything. They really made everything possible because those Patreon support pledges paid my rent, especially in the early days when I was experimenting and trying to find my voice. And like, I couldn't have done that without them. So all that stuff is going great, but here's the kind of the big but at the end that you were probably waiting for. Just the atmosphere of 2025 and the way that things are going. I am going to take a bit of a pause on namely Crown and Skull, but on some other stuff. I think I'm going to give Crown and Skulls a longer time to percolate if I'm going to do a third volume, which I did want to do 5 volumes, but I don't think I need to do one every year like clockwork. I think I can let the process happen a little bit more organically. And so what was going to be Crown and Skull Volume 3, The Age of Ultimates, will now be a hex PDF release on Patreon, and I should be done with it here in a matter of days. It's basically the progress that I got on Volume 3 packed into a compact little PDF, basically bringing a superhero kind of epoch into your Crown and Skull game. So thank you, everybody, for all the reports for your Crown and Skull games that are kind of going on out there. Yeah, so that's kind of that big thing. And on the next piece is what some of you may be aware of and maybe are, grinding your gears a little bit about, but the sort of the shrinking or simplification of my Discord channel. So, these Discord channels are getting crazy, man. Like, I'll get on one of these Discord channels and it looks like Pac-Man. Like, there's things crawling around. There's like dotted lines. There's a maze. There's like a door where if you go in one side of the screen, you come out the other one. There's like a billion channels, and I don't know where to just say like, yo, guys, what's up? It's Discord getting crazy. So the other thing that I noticed at the end of 2024 or so, maybe it was kind of the beginning of this year, is that there was a little bit of a mood shift on the internet. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I have no doubt that it is largely due to the horrific political conditions in the United States right now. It's so bad. Sorry, world. But there was like a weird tonal shift, and it was kind of like coming at me in a way that I didn't like. So I was trying to get a little less of this in my life day to day. So I took the Runehammer Discord channel and cooked it way down from all these channels to just a couple of channels and made it a little more like a Q&A style site, as well as like place to post your arts and crafts and to talk about like books that we're finding, and a channel to do announcements. That's like it. So I know that sometimes that community that was forming on Discord, I know that it was like there were a lot of people who really loved it, that there's some hurt or some god dang it to it being so cooked down. But I really do think the vast minority, like maybe less than a dozen people, were really doing almost all the talking, even though there's, I think, like 2,000 people on there. And I wanted to kind of remedy that a little bit. And I do think that it's become a more peaceful environment, maybe a little less fun kind of flim-flammy talk going on, but I do think it's become a little more productive. So for anyone out there who that kind of rubbed you the wrong way or you're unhappy about that, sorry about that. I do think that less Discord in our daily lives is kind of a good thing. I'm not really throwing the finger at chatting online because I've been doing it since before there was an internet. Like, I've been chatting online since like the terminals came online in the late 80s. So it's always been part of my life. But I think it's kind of like, meter it, right? What's the old saying? The difference between medicine and drugs is the dosage, right? So we just need to meter that online kind of chit-chatty habit that can really form. And, I don't know if you guys are like me, but it definitely is a habitual thing. So on the one hand, you lose a little bit of that kind of flim-flammy daily talk. But on the other hand, hopefully you gain a little more time being in real life. And I think everyone can easily agree that nowadays there's too much vortex to be on phones and computers. And that has been true for a long time. But I think the step up that the industrial forces created to like algorithmically keep us looking at screens and stuff, I think we can all agree it's like not the best thing we got going. But that doesn't mean we don't want any of it. I love chatting with y'all and people that hit me up, and we share materials, we share ideas, we talk about our games and stuff. So anyways, I think that's a big catch up as far as like where's Runehammer at for the internet type community. And by the way, I know a lot of you are at GaryCon today, if anybody's tuning in from there, and I hope you're all having a great time at GaryCon. Rock on. And I hope your games all go well. Okay. So that's some of all that kind of stuff. And then I guess that brings us to the fun part, and then we'll do Q&A here toward the end, which we always do. This is the way. And it's not like I have the answers. I don't want anybody to ever think that that's why we do Q&A on the stream. I think we just do it because it's fun. It's a way to keep this conversation going. And I don't know about y'all, but doing this day in, day out, every week, or like so many of us, we don't have the chance to just play games constantly every day, every week. Our group can only meet once a month or even more infrequently than that. But if you're like me, you're thinking about it a lot, and it can be a very compulsion-driven hobby because of these sort of story dreams that we have, these sort of epic ideas and moments that we dream of happening. And so living that kind of reality, it definitely shows me just my questions are endless, and my chin scratching. And that's why we like to do Q&A on here, because I think anytime you ask a question on a live stream, there is someone, if not multiple people, who are sort of asking the same question or curious about the same stuff. And my best guess at an answer is a way for us to come together, right? Okay, so all that, schlibbity, there you go, done deal. All right, so let's talk about, we're just getting back to the classics here. Let's talk about my games, all right? So obviously since September and I opened the shop, I've been in more games than is reasonable. I actually kind of had to slow it down just a bit toward the end of the year because it was starting to be a little blurry. So I kind of really brought it back to the roots and back to my crew, which is now called the Skull Seekers. They're basically an extended version of the Dirty Jobs crew, and that has been a continuous storyline, which is now on session 61, will be Thursday night. 61 sessions. We did over 3 solid years in Old School Essentials, and even Old School Essentials we strayed a little bit from and went back to our AD&D books. So we were really playing AD&D for 3 years, and even then a kind of a more Borgian kind of version. I guess what many people would call, the OSR-ish. I guess, Old School is in both OSR, OSE, whatever. I like to call it vintage. Vintage D&D in particular. And we were in there for quite a while, and then 5.5 came out and we sort of embraced it. And I feel like I'm going the exact opposite direction of everyone, which is kind of hilarious. My wife calls it hipster behavior, right? So when 5e was really popular, I was like, I'm not into this. And like totally into like the indie scene. And we're playing all these crazy indie RPGs. I'm making the indie RPGs all at the same time. And then when 5.5 comes out and everybody decides they hate WotC now and that they're grumpy about WotC and they have no interest in 5.5 and they're all going to go OSR mode, I'm like the exact opposite. It's so funny. I love 5.5. I think it's like the best edition since AD&D. I don't know how else to say it. And I'm not giving a review or anything. But I mention our AD&D old school kind of, OSE roots in this group because I think it gives some context to my opinion here or my reaction to D&D 5.5. I'm not like a drone or something like that. People are saying all these mean things to me just because I like the new edition of D&D. It's extremely weird. It's like a very divided mood out there right now. And like, well, you're just saying that because you're in a shop, or you're just trying to go with the flow, or you don't want to dibbity, whatever. I don't know. Our pedigree with like roots D&D is beyond question. We put 49 sessions, I think it was, or I wish it was an even 50, but I think it's like 49 sessions into those old school rules. We know the old stuff really well, top to bottom. And 5e, actually looking back on it, I'm slowly starting to like it a little more. I really do think Yawning Portal was a cool book in 5e because it includes some of those mega classics like Sunless Citadel, Forge of Fury. Oh man, those are both such sick adventures. So by whatever crazy hook and crook, I wound up back here in 5.5. I absolutely love this book. This book is brilliant. It's it's not like, oh yeah, but dude, it's not that different. No, it isn't that different, but it's so dope. It's so dope. So anyway, that's the beginning. Okay, so in the Skull Seekers group, we've been playing 5.5. All my guys are second level, about to maybe within stabbing distance of third level. But we do, as you guys probably read on my blog, please read my blog, by the way. That's where my real best thinking is. We do all experience gained is divide by 10 before you tally. So you move at 1/10 normal leveling up speed because I feel like people need to learn their level before they move on. So we're all second level, um, approaching third, and definitely like really vibing on it. Players are digging 5.5 a lot. I can tell you too, one thing that's great about coming back to new D&D, modern D&D, is its homeworky researchability aspect. Now, I know people love to do rules light. They like to make characters quickly or even die quickly. And this is kind of a fantasy that's kind of going around with some people of like, it's so cool because it's so deadly and simple and all this stuff. And, you know, I vibe on that, of course. But there's something really cool to the depth and complexity that's researchable in these three books that, for my group anyways, it kind of keeps us coming back to discussion and keeps us cracking the books and keeps us sitting and talking. And that's been really cool. And I feel like in the more simple, more, essentialist style, there's less to talk about because there's just kind of less depth to it. So anyways, that's where we are. But I wanted to catch you up on what I'm getting ready to try to put into a publishable form for DM's Guild, which is the contents of our session 59 and 60 games. So the Skull Seekers started down in the central Greyhawk area, basically about 5 days south of Shondal. And by the way, I'm going to throw out a lot of Greyhawk terms. If you're into Greyhawk lore like I am, this is probably going to feel like, whoa, you guys are like right in it. If you're not, you're in for a real treat. I love the hell out of Greyhawk. I know it well and the way that it ebbs and flows, and I'm so happy to return to it. Maybe I'm old or boring. I don't know, but Greyhawk is sick. So my guys are down there in Shondal. We've got Ivid the Undying. He's this sort of undead king. He's got this dragon who's not even a dragon. It's actually his magician he's enslaved. And this magician takes dragon form to try to taunt other powerful beings to destroy him so he can be free of slavery. This was kind of part of how things began. They were an extension of a previous set of episodes, which occurred all the way down in Fax near the Wild Coast, involving these crystals and a hint that Zgutmoy was sort of rising in power, but beneath Greyhawk. Those characters wound up sort of not surviving and also heading north, the ones who did survive. Then the events of Crown and Skull 2, the news of those events found its way to Greyhawk, because as many of you know, Blackmoor and the North Holds, which is in Crown and Skull, are just the remote north of Greyhawk. Those events reached the ears of people in Greyhawk, and all these demon kin and different like barbed devils and stuff are all migrating south. People thought it was an invasion. It's not an invasion. They're actually fleeing from Asurian. Asurian is one of the titanic dragons. There's a whole dragon family tree in Crown and Skull Volume 2. Asurian has been making sojourns much further south, and everywhere Asurian goes decimates everything. This is a dragon that's bigger than a town and throws like castles out of her mouth and like drops these huge boulders on things. So as my characters are moving across the plains, they encountered Asurian for the first time. And I think I talked about this a little bit online, using poker cards to do this insane, like fleeing this dragon thing. They interacted with the capital city of Shondal for a while. They defy a knight's order. So the king, Bolvor, is not a big fan of them. Bolvor the Third, by the way, if you know your Greyhawk lore. They kind of defy him. They go to find Ulrich, who is part of some of the one-shots I was doing here in the shop. So I was tying the Skull Seekers games into all the one-shots that I was hosting here at Runehammer, getting all those events to knit together. They go, they find this thing, they learn more about the dragons, blah, blah, blah. They basically faced a lot of decisions. They can kind of take the Broken Realm, which is kind of like the Shadowfell. They can take that to go north. They've basically decided they want to contact Paramus the Infinite, who is this super ancient dragon who reportedly can look through and manipulate time slightly. And so they want to do is try to get some answers, if anything can be done, about Asurian's waking, the waking of more and more dragons, and the sort of coming of the end times. If the armies of Ayuz, these massive swarms of demon kin, are fleeing, this is really bad. So they're kind of wondering, is there a way we can help? They don't want to go into the Shadowfell. They don't want to they don't want to ride a dragon north. They don't want to take any of these shortcuts because they think it's just going to draw more attention and they will be killed. Remember, these are players who are on their fourth characters and stuff over the course of years. And so they're now quite wary of being killed, especially because in 5.5, you get a really strong character investment which I know people say, oh, you don't die enough in D&D. Don't you, though? Session 60. Anyway, they decide to hoof it. They're going to walk. Lord of the Rings shit, back to the basics. The only safe way to get up there is to walk. So they begin walking. A lot of stuff happens as they walk. They encounter a lot of different things. There's no time to tell you everything. We'd be here for 20 hours. Eventually, they find themselves at the wonderful landmark of Eruv Tovar. So Eruv Tovar, for those of you who know Greyhawk, oh yes, you know it well. This ruined city that's been fought over by orcs and demonkind for centuries. It's kind of like Weathertop in Lord of the Rings a little bit. This like undestroyable landmark where there's kind of still like the frames of some buildings left. It's either been in orcish or in demonic hands over the years in different degrees. They come across this place. There is a ritual taking place. These barbed devils basically have found a copy of the Book of Vile Darkness. They are using it to dispel or to banish all orc kind in the wolf nomad nations, which is the north of Greyhawk. They're going to banish them all into the Broken Realm, Shadowfell, whichever you want to call it. Once and for all, they're going to remove their enemy. And this is really bad. We have an orc in our party. Like we got to mess with this. We got to get into this. So they got into this whole fight with these barbed devils. We played barbed devils right out of the new monster manual. So you guys know that I'm like a hardcore home brewer, but every once in a while, and more honestly lately, I'm really getting an interest in this. It's so strange. Playing things exactly out of the book. You open the book to the monster page. Don't mess it up. Don't nerf anything. Don't forget anything. Play it right by the numbers. And so we had 6 of these buggers. So total of challenge 30 total, which is no joke. Imagine 3 challenge 10s. Like, it'd be horrible. Anyway, this was a pitched and super fun battle. And we lost one of our characters, Electo, who was our kind of our southerner. He was kind of like a Roman centurion type character. And he did not make it out of that fight. So whenever we have a character death, we do what's called Freaky Friday, which is that you body jump into the nearest viable NPC as your next character, and it's non-negotiable. We had 2 orc NPC allies that were helping us to find Eruv Tovar, and so he jumped into one of these orcs. Now, I'm a little bit interested in the comments here because I see something. Oh, Greyhawk isn't more popular because it's not complete. It's a broad framework. It's a lot of work. I couldn't disagree with more with that. I think Greyhawk is absolutely complete and ready to run. I've never understood the idea that it's not complete enough. The amount of information that's out there about Greyhawk, as well as tried and true adventures and kick-ass location-driven adventures like Socanth, are so good and so abundant that to say Greyhawk is somehow flimsy or loosely assembled, to me, has never made any sense. But if somebody feels that way about it, I mean, rock on, go back to the Sword Coast, I guess, which is probably the most, I don't know. To me, the Sword Coast is not even as developed as Greyhawk, so I've never really understood. So, okay, they managed to overcome this thing. They get the Book of Vile Darkness and they put it in their bag of holding as a containment point. But if you know anything about devils in the monster manual, when they are killed, they do not die. They go back to the 9 hells. So the news that my party has the Book of Vile Darkness would instantly travel because the defeated devils go back to their headquarters, basically, right? So Iuz, the evil, and the legions of demons that are trying to overcome their orc foes once and for all as this dragon apocalypse approaches, now know that my players are in possession of this book. We have that threat cooking over here on the back burner. But that isn't even what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is the outcome, which is we're getting into in session 61. Eruv Tovar is now what my players have chosen as the location for their Bastion. So the Bastion rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide are everybody's favorite. They're absolutely fantastic. They're super fun, nice and simple, kind of working on a 1-week clock to use little portions of your stronghold to create things. I mean, it goes all the way back to the rules cyclopedia, Fortress rules. It's all cut and dry. It's all been in D&D forever. It's not new. It's just nice to have sitting there. But what's cool and what I've never had in a game in all these years is a game like a world landmark being the hero's Bastion. That's super dope. they now like own and are rebuilding Tovar. It's so sick. It's so sick. And so we basically have 3 possible avenues that session 61 is going to happen. We're all chit-chatting a little bit right now, trying to figure out what those are. And then I want to try to do a bit of a 5.5 publication that talks about the idea of building a bastion at Tovar and the sort of 3 main adventure points that could occur in that process. And so that's something that I've been super excited about and working on, and you're kind of caught up with where we are. So the only reason that they aren't just continuing north, which is their journey, is the new Freaky Friday character, this orc named Rake, is that Rake needs satisfaction. He won't just go north with the homies before he gets satisfaction in his war with Demonkind. Lay down, buddy. Lay down. It's almost time. Chutney's getting a little antsy. He's getting a little wiggly. Lay down. Go on. Good boy. All right. Chutney's taken care of. So that's that whole Tovar Bastion craziness. Definitely have kind of read through the monster manual a couple times now and like starting to find some favorites and some intriguing spots. I think we're building our way up to a horned devil battle. I think that's going to be like one of the generals of the barbed devils. But just loving how these things are playing so far. And this is not some kind of cheesy plug or like, you know, this is the one thing you need to make your game. It's none of that stuff. I'm just saying I'm digging the hell out of it. I really like it. I don't know why it's a trend or like a way to be cool right now to take a dump on D&D. I know they've had some slight like PR problems. I can understand that. I'm here with the rest of you. But I just don't know why it's like somehow cool to like shit on D&D. I really don't get it. Or like to like pick at them about what their like quarterly revenues may or may not be. I just don't understand it. You know, it's just D&D. Like, it's dope. It's all good. Whatever. Move on. So anyway, now you're kind of caught up with the Skull Seekers. And so next Thursday, we're going to play through this Tovar as Bastion idea and then what we might be engaging in with. I think there's some action going on in the Fellreave, which is to the east, and we might even have some incoming action as there's an attack here. And of course, why were the demons using that location to cast that ritual? Well, there must be something below Tovar that's making that a power point, a lay point, right? A magic node. And that would be the sort of the third element, which to me is probably the coolest. What lies below Tovar? Chongo Tovar. All right. So anyway, I think that should catch you up on all my stuff. Both my existential status, you know, like, whoa, why aren't you doing podcasts and YouTubes and all that kind of stuff? I had a big year and a half. It was a monstrous mountain to move to open this shop and to also make sure that we were coming at it the right way. You know, like it's easy to do this in a way that I haven't liked. Since the early 90s, I have not known a single game shop that I wanted to be at or was comfortable at. Sorry, everybody. But it just wasn't, you know, it's kind of like my feeling about cons. Like, you know, why is it always like fluorescent lights and like this kind of weird vibe and like there's no music and like it kind of smells musty and everything's a bit of a mess and stuff. Like, I don't know, call me picky or something, but I don't like it. And so we went to great lengths to make this kind of cozy, warmly lit, you know, small scale, private, chill environment. And like that was a shit ton of work. But now it's feeling like there's a good feeling that we're here, at least at the first chapter. And so I wanted to try to get back in this habit of catching up with Runehammer on Saturdays. So howdy doody, everybody. Nice to be back. Thanks everyone for tuning in. With all that, with a solid 30 minutes of BS from your old boy Hankering Fernale, why don't we open the floor up? So to help as we have comments kind of coming and going, put question in all caps. But as was sardonically pointed out in YouTube comments like 2 weeks ago, Just because you're putting question in all caps doesn't mean you're talking in all caps, because we know you know who does that, and we're not going to be like you know. So somebody throw some questions out so we can keep this conversation going for another 30 or so, and then I'm going to have to get out of here. I can hear some fun murmuring and activity out in the shop, and who knows what we're going to get into today. I know we have Trench Crusade later this afternoon. I'm going to be meeting with Adam from Order of the Amber Die today. Next weekend, I will be in their marathon, which was a crazy invitation. If you don't know Order of the Amber Die, you do now. Go follow their blog immediately. One of the world's greatest role-playing crews, and I'm going to have a spot. So that's pretty dope. Really excited about that. It's only a week away. So we're doing a big beer run today, if you can. Scott S. is up in the spot. Some of my players come to game night after work and beat. They're engaged but tired. Any tips? Yeah, don't do that. I don't think you're talking about rocket science there. Like, works hard and coming in tired is not a formula for hell yeah. So you got to find timing that brings everyone in ready, popping fresh and ready to have fun. I know that's not an easy answer, probably not the one you want to hear, but finding a way to make priority for game night so that everybody comes in fresh and energetic is the final boss of all D&D. We all know that. But it can be done. If you really believe in your game and you believe in your group, just bring it up to them and say, yo, you guys, I'm not digging everybody playing all wiped out. For one thing, you guys need rest. Working jobs is insane right now. Do people even have jobs in 2025? I don't know what's going on. But secondly, just be frank with them about it. That's always the best approach with your group. It's just say the stuff. Just put it out there, and good will come. So good luck with that. That is a tough one, Scott. I don't mean to make light of it by any means. Thanks, Badger. What's up? Thank you for the Saturday. Yeah. Oh, yeah, a little coffee on Saturday. What's your favorite villain you've ever run? Wow. I don't know. Is probably the Knight of Roses. The guy with the bucket helmet. I guess he wound up sort of living in Dragonlance world, but he was a real bugger in our world. I think he was called Sarn, the Knight of Roses in our world. And man, he was fun though. He was a really good time. And that's back when I was doing the Shattered Stairs and everything on YouTube. But I don't know. I only say that because it's at nostalgia distance. Bloodwing was a really, really good one. King Ithamel was a really good one. Bloodwing was legendary. Orgadex was really cool. That was our beholder that was like plotting and scheming behind the scenes and only revealed itself at the end. That's tough to choose, man. Don't make me choose my favorite villain. That's brutal. I think the best villains are ones that take a long time to reveal, but whose influence is easily evident. And the ones who, when you do get to act them out, it's like, yes, I get to be this tonight. I get to speak as Bloodwing tonight. This is going to be epic. I think that's the magic. I don't think it's necessarily how difficult they are or how ominous. I think it's more just like how that slow burn feels, and then that nice reward of getting to be that villain. Without just sort of being a hollow like saber rattler, but have some depth and some interestingness to the villain. Michael, what's up? Are you homebrewing system elements in 5.5? Very, 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 very little, if any. I think we had some oddball minor feats at level 1. But I know this is weird, Michael, but right now I'm not only into just playing straight, but also like the second season of my kids group. My kids made it to 20 sessions in their first season. Can you believe that? So we're going to wrap that up tomorrow. And then in season 2, I'm running Forge of Fury. So I'm going to run Forge of Fury right out of the old book. And I'm just like, I'm feeling that vibe right now. I want to run Sunless Citadel again. I want to just run these things as they're written. I know this is weird. I've been talking about just doing DIY for years and everything, but it just goes to show that you can be fluid and change whenever you want because it's a hobby. It's for fun. I have no obligation to do anything what's the most fun. So yeah, almost no homebrew at all right now. Just playing it super straight. I was hoping to make it to the shop. Great. It's hard to leave my hobbit hole. Well, nice. Enjoy those dice. You'll find them to be very addictive. Yeah. Soth. That's right. Lord Soth. Sarn was our evil druid. That's right. Lord Soth. Yeah, the Buckethead. The Lord of Roses, the Knight of Roses. But for us, it was we doing. Francis here. Oh yeah, hey. What's up, my dude? Hope your new digs are chilling. Francis is the man, y'all. Our paths briefly cross, but they will cross again. Given that you're running a lot more as written works, is there anything you find makes an adventure work better for you in terms of support? Yeah, I think one of the key things is the author of the adventure not caring if I get it or not. Just laying it down in a simple, cut and dry fashion. I think that a lot of words are wasted in many adventures trying to make sure I freaking get the idea. Instead of just laying it down and trusting me to be a dungeon master, right? And this is where I think dungeon-driven adventures are always so compact and tight. You go to Stone Tooth. Beyond Stone Tooth is the Mountain Door level of the dungeon. Beneath the Mountain Door level of the dungeon is the Glitterhame. This is where the orcs have made their blah blah blah. And like there's all this like sort of shoe leather, as Dan would call it, isn't wasted on me trying to make sure that I like get it, like talking down to me a little bit. And I find that the old modules are brilliant this way. Now the old modules also have a lot of like kind of what? But if you read the original Caverns of Socanth, that's Gygax 1982, his encounters are kind of like video gamey a little bit. It's a little bit like boing, another clown jumps out of a can of peanuts. But it doesn't really go into this laborious process of trying to make sure I get how to make it cool. And I really like that. And it makes things more compact. I think that the industry generally didn't really reward the idea of compact adventures, so they're very hard to find nowadays. Best in show probably being Broadsword by DM Dave. But yeah, I often talk about don't look back. The best things aren't in the past, they're in the future, But when it comes to little adventure modules, I really love those OG ones, the B, the S, and the A series and all that stuff. So yeah, I just like it to be cut and dry, Just let's get to the stuff. Just show me the encounters, show me the monster roster, give me the map, give me like the underlying kind of, clickety gibbet that's like one paragraph, and then give me the box text and let's rock. Yeah, cool, Barlow. Thanks for all your support, by the way, over the years. Yeah, publish stuff. Yeah, I just because I haven't done it for a while, it doesn't mean like just any kind of baggage there. Like running stuff that's printed by cool, creative thinkers is an absolute blast. I mean, rock on. It's like a core part of what we do. I just wasn't doing it for a few years there. But hey, I'm back. I don't know if there's a lot of generalizations flying around in the age of the internet that if you aren't visibly doing a thing that you don't know shit about it. Well, here I am. What's a major lesson or takeaway you learned or learning lately? Wow. With regards to gaming or your role as a builder and a shopkeep, man, more lessons than can easily be described, Tyler. But you know what? Thank you for the question, by the way. That's a great alley-oop question. I think I do have the best answer. I've learned so much in the past year and a half, so much about myself, about my marriage, about my neighborhood, about business, about buildings. But I think the number one thing that I could really call out is this idea of meeting people and meeting the hobby where it is, not where you want it to be. Now I know that's a little convoluted, but for a decade now, by the way, next month is Runehammer's 10th anniversary. But for a decade, I was actively saying, this isn't cool enough, do this. or like, here's a cooler proposal. Be like, try this, and that's the mindset of all my publications, of my YouTube channel, of everything. But opening up a place and having people wander in of their own accord and ask about Battletech, or about a new combat patrol from Warhammer, or about a magic booster set, or something, and just being and looking them eye to eye, I've found a tremendous amount of joy in just meeting this hobby right where it's at in my neighborhood. Not trying to ramrod it into what I think it should be, if that makes any sense. Like, I wasn't into Magic forever. I still am a complete noob. I only played it in the very beginning when it was like super simple and there's like a red deck, it's just like, that's all it was. And I was like worried that it would have like a destructive or an invasive presence in our shop if we let it in the door, so to speak, like a vampire. But the Magic community in this area has proven to be such chill, friendly folk. I really don't see a reason to close the door there, And then you look at D&D and just how many people really were excited by and still are super jazzed by the new edition of D&D, and you're seeing them in person day to day. And instead of saying, "Oh, I'm not into it," like, you should check out, Morkborg, or like Corny Groan, or like some of these more like underappreciated RPGs and stuff. I still do that every day, but just meeting it where it is and being happy about it, that's amazing. It's some Buddha level stuff. I'm absolutely loving it. And I'm so grateful that that's like sort of dawning on me in my hobby journey. I'm just happy to sort of be here in the flow rather than kind of, being on the side like I was for years, being like, no, it should be like the Runehammer way. So I hope that answers your question. With your embracing of 5.5, how do you feel looking back at 5e hardcore mode? 5e hardcore mode is great. Big fan. I still think that Zymer's Candle was a little bit mind-bending for everyone, but we had a good time with it. And spell slots, again, here's a perfect example. I would just say, forget spell slots. Don't worry about it. Take a spell at its origin level and just keep it there and you're done. But if you get a couple good players and you spend an extra half an hour before your session to really get a handle on spell slots, also meta magic in the new player's handbook is so cleaned up and so tasty. Using meta magic points is so cool now. But if you just take a minute to just accept it rather than homebrew and hack it down, you're like, oh my God, this is great. And then also try using some tokens to track slots and stuff like that. Anyway, the point being, 5e hardcore mode was great. It like basically helped me survive the pandemic. But things have seasons, so we still sell a lot of 5e hardcore mode right here in the shop and online. But I don't think there's any mutual exclusivity to those things. I loved writing it. We played that for 2 years. And now I'm kind of over here. I think there's just a seasonality to things. Thoughts gathering your creative wisdom into a book. Shannon Ferguson. Well, I appreciate that. That's nice. I have no idea where I would begin. Many times I've tried to write these books that come from like a scholarly kind of tone. I find it so difficult to keep a straight face while reporting somewhat prescriptive ideas about creativity or thinking, even though I've put 30 solid years now into the creative industry. I think I just have to wait until I'm a little older to be able to kind of, say things in that tone. Like that book I love, 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School. That clearly those are the words of a master, and I'm so far from that. I don't feel comfortable taking that tone yet, but I love that idea and I appreciate the idea. Thanks for that. That is fun, but I don't think I'm ready. The force does not yet flow fully through me. Remember your failure in the cave. Joe, what's up? What's your current journal and pen combo? Where'd I put it? It's in my backpack. I've got the Sword Coast, or the Hot Springs Island, Swordfish Island journal, and my pen. I'm either on my old Uniball thing, or Or this busted up old Twisby Diamond. This poor thing. This thing has been through hell. My God. Yeah, that's where I live. And then when I work in the Morat, I use just like a brown Sharpie. You help me up my journal game. Yeah, journal game is a huge, huge deal. Um, to me, it is the route to which all things return in this hobby. Even just little paint scheme ideas, notes, writing down costs of things, people's phone numbers, and like emails, and then doing maps, and just the mental flow of seeing your thoughts. Okay. Here's Stormblood over here. We're getting towards some big reveals in our Alfheim game. Cool. Good music. Any advice on making the moment stand out and memorable? Well, remember sometimes that reveals, Kurt Vonnegut was, very smart on this. The reveal is always going to be less than the journey to get there. So in many ways, the secret, the fact that it's not known, is the least interesting thing about it. So I think the fun part about the reveal isn't the reveal itself. It is the seeing of the breadcrumbs that brought you there and seeing that they all stitch together. So if you're the one running this game and the reveal is coming, you can up your breadcrumb game and then later say, see why that dude was selling those melons that had the secret message written on the bottom of the melon? That was the worst example you could ever. But hey, that's what I'm here for, right? Bad examples. But still, I think so. I think the reveal is going to be, well, yeah, I mean, of course, that's the reveal. But then seeing that the reveal was cooking this whole time. And that's why Vonnegut would just give you the reveal in the beginning of the book, is that he wanted to cut right to that fun sensation. And then he would bring you back. So don't worry so much that your reveal is going to be like, oh my God, the princess is actually the dragon. Of course the princess is a freaking dragon. This is D&D. But then you're like, oh, wait a minute. That dude we killed in the swamp was her brother. Oh, no. Who's going to tell her? That's more interesting. That's more fun than finding out the big secret. So I hope that helps, my man. Have you ever run Planescape? No, not really. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that setting. We come and go into the planar realms sometimes, but City of Doors and some of this other stuff, it gets honestly just too crazy for me to process. I need a little bit more earthbound adventuring. The wildest I've ever gotten is Spelljammer. To me, Planescape is even crazier than Spelljammer. So I have a little bit of trouble maintaining believability in there. And I think it's tough to find good advice on Planescape. It's kind of like good advice on playing level 20. The only person I've ever known to give good advice on playing at max level is Frank Menser, who had that great thesis that at that level of D&D, it is not a game about obstacles. There are no obstacles. The only problem is that you can't be in 5 places at once. And you can't even say that the problem is you can't be in 2 places at once, because at that level, you can be in 2 places at once. But you can't solve all the problems all the time. And that is where the DM needs to have this galactic kind of view. So Planescape's tough. Wargaming. Yeah, so Francis, we do our Wargame Club from 2 to 5 on Saturdays. We've mainly just played Trench Crusade so far. We've built 5 of the 6 armies in the Trench Crusade set. So I'm about to build the 7-headed serpent. We also got the entire bit box for Trench Crusade, which is insane. It's so fun. All this cool stuff. Trench Crusade plays like an absolute dream. It is vastly simpler and more intuitive than playing 40K. Sorry, Games Workshop. Rolling 20 dice for chainsword attacks and everything, rolling for wounds and doing saves and everything in Warhammer. We've all done it for years. It's great. But Trench Crusade cooks everything down to an I go, you go, simpler kind of 2d6 roll with a fixed target. It's something just a little more easy to just flow through it than the Warhammer turn cycle, which can be a little bit of a mental drain. So, yeah, that's our Wargaming Club. Sometimes we just paint. I think there's about 5 of us. And work sometimes prohibits the club from taking off. But I haven't really advertised the club in any way yet. It's just been me and the homies. But every Saturday I do set up a wargaming table. I have one out there right now called the Inescapable Trenches. Just again, follow me on Instagram for daily, sometimes pictures of all the stuff that I do here. I know not everybody wants to be on Instagram because Instagram is evil at its core. Sorry about that, but it is kind of the yellow pages of our day, so it kind of stuck using it, which is part of its evil, right? Pyronite asks, how are you? I'm pretty good. I'm really adapting to the idea of having a job. I've not had a job for 10 years. Um, doesn't say I don't work. I've been busting my ass for 10 years. But to have a job is different. It's like showing up in the same place at the same time, packing your lunch, going home at the same place. I'm an extremely chaotic person. So order is very counterintuitive to me. So having an orderly life has been like crazy. But otherwise, doing great, man. The universe is currently being kind to me and my tiny little family. And I know it's not easy for a lot of people out there in the world. What a mess in some cases. But yeah, all is well. All is well. Yeah, Planescape gets a little crazy. Matt Williams, what do you think of Western Reaches? Well, my involvement ended with the Shadow Dark core book. I did about 7 pieces of art in that book. And I also did the trade dress, meaning I chose like the typefaces and did the template layouts for the pages. I designed the logo for Shadow Dark. What do you know about that? There's that logo right there. But that was the extent of my involvement. I wasn't involved in Western Reaches. What am I thought about it? Well, I'm sure it's cool for its, Kelsey's sort of take. She sent me this really big like maze tablecloth that she uses to run her games. And she definitely, at least in the Shadow Dark facing side of her, lives right in that kind of old timey maze kind of feel, creeping through a tunnel, 5-foot squares and all that kind of stuff, and traps around the corner and kind of, like I said, like clowns that pop out of, peanut cans, like Gygax style. And I think in that milieu, it absolutely rocks. As I've kind of been saying, though, for reasons I don't fully psychologically understand, I'm in a seasonal change toward much more rules thickness. And so we played in that Shadow Dark kind of OSE kind of style for quite a long time. So to us, it doesn't feel like the next thing. To us, it feels like what we just did. So I think to people who've been playing in 5e for the past 7 to 10 years, definitely get in there and play some Shadow Dark and play some OSE and Morkborg. Definitely do that. But I think that change from season to season is happening for different populations in the hobby at different times. So for us, we're kind of not like, oh my God, Shadow Dark. We're kind of almost on the opposite movement. I know I got to fess up here and I got to be completely 100%. I was not that big on 5e after like the first year it was out. They kind of lost me a little bit. I can't fully explain why. I went into what is now called the OSR kind of modality. And now I know this is loony. And this is why I keep talking about it over and over, because it's a little bit loony. But one thing you can't deny about Shadow Dark, and Kelsey in particular as a sort of a, role-playing celebrity, is that it's working. So for all the people that are supporting her with such fervor, I just hope they're having a blast with it. I mean, that's all I can say. I think there was definitely a time, that I would like to have achieved the kind of notoriety that I see her earning in the scene. Same with like Colville, like Colville and his Draw Steel thing is like got so much momentum and support. And I was kind of like, how come Crown and Skull doesn't get all that love? And I think it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this stream, which is, I don't do a ton of conventions. I don't do Kickstarter stuff. I honestly just don't like being that. And so it kind of makes sense, and it isn't a comparison. I'm not saying like you're like this and I'm over here. I wish, and yeah, like Pyronide says, like I have a brick and mortar shop. That's been the project I've been working on. That's been my dream. Not necessarily this other stuff. So that was a big convoluted answer. Obviously it's been on my mind quite a bit. How could it not be? Right. But I know that Gary Con is this weekend. She's there, and I bet like that Shadow Dark buzz vibe is probably potent. She's probably got some copies of Western Reaches with her, and it's super cool. And like, fuck yeah, rock on, man. Have fun with it, you guys. That's what's up. I hope that was a good and thorough answer, Matt. Pyro's up in here. What do you make your clues more obvious but keep the mystique? My players aren't picking up the clues I'm dropping. Yeah. Yo, don't bother. Even the concept of a clue, I don't even play. Homie, don't play that. We just talk openly about the meta. I truly expect and embrace that my players are going to maturely separate their knowledge from their character knowledge. I just openly talk to them as Brandon. Yo, you guys, this is kind of the three things I see kind of being possible here. Or I'll even say something like, it's probably obvious to you that blabbity blibbity blap. Just lay the secret out. Once again, something being hidden is not fun because it's not known. You can't enjoy it. Tell them. Yeah, I can see the looks on you guys' faces. You probably have realized that the princess is the dragon in disguise, but your characters haven't realized that yet. And I'm not going to let you make some cheeseball roll to just figure it out. I'm going to make you suffer through knowing that while your characters don't. And I expect you to role play that accordingly. And I want you to feel that pain. And I want you to play that. And that is the fun of being able to talk openly meta. Okay, now what were you trying to do? Was that an attack roll? So I hope that helps. Clues, I don't have time for clues. Are you kidding? We have these huge storylines. I don't do clues. Especially after the session, we will just openly talk about all of it. Just get it right out in the open. Why not? But the characters don't get to know that. And that way, the players can have almost as much fun as me, the Dungeon Master. Now, you don't want to expose something that's supposed to be a jump scare, right? Like a monster that's in a dark room. I'm not going to tell them, or they just won't go in there, right? That's not as fun. But even that, frankly, would work. Like, you as players probably know that this big dark room you're about to walk into has some monsters in it. I'm not going to deny that. But your characters have to go in here. They're compelled by their oath to the king or whatever. So on and so on. But yeah, I don't play games with little hidden clues. What do you think of running Crown and Skull to people that are newer and inexperienced to tabletop? Absolutely. Crown is very, very beginner friendly because it is a cookdown. Especially if you have a Crown pre-gen, it is extremely easy to play. If you get on Patreon and get my Crown pre-gens that I posted a little ways back, you can play those dry as a bone and just know exactly what to do and feel it. You don't have lengthy spell descriptions. You don't have elusive concepts like bonus actions or reactions. You don't have a lot of the more deep mechanical expectations. Ugh. God, that was a mouthful. I think Crown and Skull is really, really beginner friendly. Yeah, because also if you're a beginner, nothing seems counterintuitive because you don't know any other way. So rolling under a skill is just like, oh yeah, this is what I do with a D20. I mean, it's like, I still kind of like Thaco, to be totally honest. Thaco was chill, and it gave you non-linear progression in some of the classes, and that was cool. It had a lot of resolution to it, and it still kind of just works. But if you've been playing something else for ages, and then you look at Thaco, you're like, ew. But for the beginner mind, the Zen mind, all doors are open. So beginners can play any game, I think, and embrace it quickly. What's up, Hunter? Crown and Skull terrifies me. It's amazing. Okay, Stormblood. Well, Heartsuit's kind of hidden gem masterpiece. Thanks, man. Any kind of back your mind concepts to revisit ICRPG in another expansion? Well, Heartsuit, I'm really proud of it. And we, again, put about 1.5 years into our Heartsuit campaign and played it front to finish, like really nice, a shave and a haircut, man, the whole package, and really, really enjoyed it. But I do think Heartsuit is a bit of an enigma for the reader. I'm not sure a lot of people know how to approach a tableau, a milieu, a context that's as complex as Heartsuit. Heartsuit is fantasy that's hiding an underlayer of science fiction. And I think it's easy to accidentally fall into like, oh, it's like mecha stuff, like it's sci-fi. There's lasers. So I do think like some of the readership, before they get into it, don't know what to think of it, and therefore it kind of sits. It's a tough one. But would I like to do another ICRPG expansion? Sure. I mean, nothing's off the table. And I think that's one of the most important things to talk about today as we're kind of coming toward the end of the stream is like, as long as I get to flow and I don't take some of this industrial pressure, this perceived pressure, this internet pressure, to, you have to be your brand and you have to keep going with your specific thing that you already did and you have to go on this certain journey. But if you can just follow your nose, I do think it's a less profitable endeavor, frankly, to be completely honest. But creatively and for spirit health, I think it's like vastly better. So yeah, if it's like, man, I would love to do another ICRPG book. I wonder how I could sit down and do this. And I'm just feeling that, then hell yeah. That's totally on the table. I think it's just a matter of staying in the groove and like really appreciating the friends that are around you, leaning into what they're interested in and what you're interested in, and being honest with yourself. And if you lose interest, being honest about that too. And just, taking care of, that soul power that keeps you going in the hobby. And especially when adversity is hitting you and makes your hobby kind of feel silly. And like, you're like, man, this other stuff is getting so serious. I feel kind of like a doof. That's actually probably a moment when the hobby is really important to stay in your notebook and to keep being silly. I don't know if that's an answer, but yes, doing another ICRPG expansion would be great. But remember, Hardsuit was a massive amount of labor. That was a huge effort to do all the art, all the writing, all the design, do the whole book and publish it. That was like, Lord have mercy. Well, ICRPG, forgotten, past, and done. That is absolutely brutal. I don't really know what that means. I guess you're suggesting that if a thing doesn't have a perpetual content release schedule, that it's past, dead, and gone, forgotten. Those are tough words, I got to say, after all the effort. Remember, ICRPG is still a pretty damn strong daily seller and has been going strong for over 7 years. I don't know if something not constantly growing for a decade or more constitutes being forgotten. That's a little tough. That's a little depressing. I would like things that are created to just be. I mean, they're durable entities. But ICRPG really asks that the community build it. And that is its mission. So yeah, that's a tough one. Whew. That's a scathing critique. I'm playing a Deadlands game that has lasted over a year. I'm totally losing interest. How do I bring that up to it? You just say it. The Deadlands is definitely a little bit of a one-note gimmick in some ways. I mean, no critique on the game. It's cool. But yeah, it's like, kind of skeletons and cowboy hats and stuff. Just say it. I don't think there's any shame in the game. Just saying, you guys, like, can we change that? I mean, we can finish whatever we're kind of doing, but I'm dying over here. Can we get into something that has a different vibe to it, and then open that topic up while Deadlands finishes? Just the best way is just tear the Band-Aid off. Just be honest. Like, if your friend group doesn't like your honesty, like, that's the problem, not you. Would you ever take us with you on behind the scenes as you take a dope-ass projects of yours? Tyler, I've tried to do that a little bit, but I got to say, as a sort of a one-man publishing operation, it's more work to do that than it is to create the stuff. Here's how I'm doing my layout. Here's how I'm doing my writing. Here's how I'm doing my art. Just like, oh my God, that's so much work to document visually. So not entirely likely. I'd rather do a new ICRPG book than try to document how I do it. That's like, whew, that is daunting. New tattoos. Only the progress on my X-Men sleeve. So my X-Men sleeve is getting there. I've got a Wolverine and Sabretooth coming up, or Wolverine and Omega Red coming up next. at super narrative first games? Would you take a swing at them? No, I'm a little bit past that stage. I've also never fully understood the idea of narrative first. I feel like absolutely any system is narrative first. It just depends on your group, your GM, your players. Like, I don't think a system saying be narrative is. I know it was really cool when Adam Coble wrote the grammatic presentation of moves into Dungeon World. I think that might be what you're referring to specifically, but we've kind of just incorporated that at some level into everything we do. So, not sure. I'm constantly getting my players to do one shots or mini campaigns whenever we need a break. Sure. Yeah, all the X-Men are from the Chris Claremont, Jim Lee run. That was my favorite run. Stay for the thanks for the yeah. If you don't know, Michael, if you go on icrpgcommunitycontent.org, almost everything that is ICRPG is there for free. So go grab it. It really is meant to be a take it and run concept. It is not necessarily meant to be a here comes book 7. I still think it's an intriguing idea, of course, but yeah, it is meant to live on its own. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. It's been an hour and 15 now. Thanks all 120 of you or so for tuning in. You blessed me with your presence. I'm very grateful. And how hard could it be to come and chill? I can recount to you my wargaming experiences, my progress with my D&D groups, and the like. I will miss you next weekend, though, because I will be deep in the depths of High Helm with the Order of the Amber Die. So the following week, expect me right back here on YouTube, and I will let you know how that goes as I peek behind the closed doors of one of the world's most infamous role-playing groups. So that is going to be absolutely legendary. Plus, put like 72 hours on Pathfinder 2E. Like, what's up, y'all? You want to talk about some legit chops? Your boy right here. Going to roll some D20s. All right. So anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Y'all dope. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't anybody tell you it's the right thing, the wrong thing, whatever. Just you got taste. And it's the opposite of the taste you had like a few months or years ago. It's all good, man. Just go with the seasons. Just follow your nose. Remember, we're doing all this stuff to have fun. So if something sounds fun, it doesn't matter what the cool thing is of the day or what the YouTube is telling you or whatever. Just have a good time with whatever's out there, all right? And if you can come by the mighty city of Philadelphia, we're right here up on 2401 Frankfurt. Come say hi. We'll be here. Chutney will be here. And I don't know, let's paint some minis or something. We could chill. You know what I'm saying? Straight up chill. Anyway, you guys are all cool. Keep it real. Don't steal. And you're always going to get yourself a good deal. Remember the rule, too. If you can go do something nice for a couple people this weekend, do it. Get somebody a cheeseburger. You know what I'm saying? And if every single person on earth did that, what a wonderful world it would be. All right. I will see you guys in 2 weeks right back here on YouTube, and I'll let you know how the Order of the Ember Die went. Okay. Until then, y'all be good. And I'll see you right back here. I'm out. Dilated peoples.